In this video, it's going to be a little bit different because I'm not just going to blow through this and that whopper. I'm just going to talk about a couple of different principles that are on my mind this morning. And that's why I say to people, stick around. I got something for everyone. Hey, welcome back. We're not at the beach, and we're going to try to deal with the background, the noise level. I'm still in these travel groups, even though I said that we've canceled our travel plans, and I know that we started our channel as a travel vlog and as a Live in Ecuador vlog. We lived in Ecuador for 8 years. We're a homeschooling, homesteading family turned world travelers. All of it centered around always living a peaceful, sane lifestyle, which is also referred to as retire early lifestyle. I have to explain that this terminology, retire, I just recently had a friend sort of call me out on the retire thing, and I had to explain to him I don't believe in retirement. And we use this terminology because that's what's common. We have a culture that is bred to believing in delayed life plans and working till you're in your 60s and 70s and then retiring. And this is not meant to denigrate those that do that, but for those that want more out of life, you have to understand that scenario is really a product of, or the summation of the industrial society. If you look at history, the industrial society and the industrial quote-unquote, this terminology, I have issues with all of this terminology. Words like revolution and things like that, industrial revolution, and this is terminology used to entice people into a kind of thinking that the promoters of the terminology have a solution to life's problems. Well, guess what? We disagree. When you talk about the characters that have surfaced ever since 2020, which, by the way, these characters have always been there, and some of us were a little more aware and maybe even a lot more aware than others, but it's okay. Different people become aware at different times. For those that are seeking truth and knowledge, we just come to understand things at a different pace. We're just at a different spot on the same road heading towards the same destination, and that is the destination of truth. And so it is that I was in a group where somebody asked a question, and this is how these groups are used, and the other lady said, my daughter, I won't give too much personal information actually, but I'll say, we want to come to Mexico, we want to find a quiet spot, a peaceful spot. And it's funny because that's why I started talking about this, because it brought to mind that conversation when you hear the racket. And to be fair, it isn't specific to Mexico. When you go to Ecuador, it's the same thing. It's a city thing. You're in these cities, and cities are just noisy. And when people go abroad, they usually don't go to some small little village, I mean, some people do, but the majority of people, they want the city life. They want all that life has to offer. And isn't that what the mainstream retire abroad media promotes? Isn't it why this whole space is so successful? You look at the space and you look at the people in the space that are getting all the views and are so successful. What is it that they're really promising people? And so it is that when people go abroad, they usually go to cities, and cities are noisy, and this person's sitting there asking, well, I want a quiet, peaceful place and stuff, and I mean, what are they going to get for an answer? Aren't they telling and promising people that they have the solution to your life's problems? We have the solution to your life's problems. You can come over here and all of your problems will be solved. Of course, nothing could be further from the truth. And don't go away yet. Because all I'm saying is it's not that some of your problems don't go away. They do. I do want to acknowledge that. But I've said in other videos that what ends up happening is that you end up swapping out challenges. Instead of the challenges you had before that you left behind, you no longer may have most of those challenges, but now you're going to replace them with new challenges that are particular to the location that you went to, that most people don't tell you about. And that's, in a nutshell, the situation. But coming back to the person, and this is common, this happens over and over and over, and this is how this social media is used, is that people are using it, and I think that a lot of people don't realize the big picture of how they're using groups and social media. This is a new thing. People never before the internet, I don't ever remember. I mean, there were always associations. You could join like a group, a local investment group where people got together and discussed. But this is different because it's the same, but it's different. It's the same concept, but you don't, in a one-on-one group, you spend face-to-face time. You can get to know the person a little bit more, know a little bit more about them. You have a little bit more information on a one-on-one. On the internet, people can make themselves be whoever they want, and that's a problem. That's a potential problem and an issue because of obvious reasons. And so it is that I was reading an article about how the inventor, I don't remember names, but the inventor of Google itself was having a conversational chit-chat, relaxed as friends, and so that, things kind of came out that maybe aren't really all that public. And it came out that the agenda, the whole intention all along of Google, think about this. How do people use Google? Well, they have a question. You have a question, you want to know how many drops are in a dropper. Well, you go to Google. In the old days, we had to go to the library and spend 6 hours leafing through books. But now we go to Google, and it was in this conversation, it was divulged that the whole intention all along, a hidden agenda, was to make Google, or an AI, incrementalism, first step, get people going on the internet, on the page, asking over, get us used to doing that, and then comes AI, the all-knowing thing that knows better than everybody else, and it's going to have all the answers to life. And isn't that how people use the internet and Google itself in groups? And unfortunately, when you take this thought to the extreme, you see where people actually end up ruining their lives. And so, moving on, there was a fellow asking in groups, same conversation about groups, but different subject, asking, because first one of their family members became very ill with bacterial issues and infection and this and that. You're hearing more and more of this all the time, and it's like they're going to a group on Facebook asking for help and solutions to something that sometimes just isn't going to come from Facebook unless somebody very particular and unique is in that group. Like, for example, a natural doctor. If a naturalist doctor is in the group, the conversation would go to a different spot. Instead, what he gets is just people telling him to do the status quo, and then it comes down to asking for money so that he can pay to have the same solution that he has already run out of money, and already more and more of his family is getting sicker and sicker, and therefore the health solutions that are commonly used by Americans just aren't working for him. His family's getting sicker and sicker. More family members are getting sick. But there he is asking for help, asking for money, and prayer. You know, the prayer is fine, but God is nowhere in that.
God is nowhere in the prayer?
Nowhere in that, because his solution is the same solution that isn't working. And he isn't willing to open up his mind to a solution that is separate from the same thing he's been doing that hasn't been working. And the other side of that is too that when we go to these groups and we seek solutions from people, and everybody is on the same train, and nobody, it's cultural, and it reinforces the negative of the failure, of the lack of the solution. And this is something that also happens in government. Because you see a lot of people in a government that want to do good, and yet they don't know where to go, and so they, to get solutions. And so what they do is they use the same solutions. Not sure where they got this stuff. It's like copy and paste, that's what I'm saying. And it's like a lot of people in government copy and paste, or they just go to other governments and say, well, what are they doing? Which is not a bad way of doing things in and of itself. But we may not really find the solutions. That's the culmination of this whole conversation, that the solutions, they're not visible. They're not at the top. They're not in the groups. They're not superficial. They're not in everyday what other countries are doing or what other people are doing in your culture to get healthy, or what, because why did a woman that had been bleeding for 12 years, that had been going to doctors, by the way, all of those years, spending money and enriching the doctors, and she was never healed, and yet she came to Jesus and somehow she was healed? There's more to that story than what it appears just in that simplistic conversation. My point being is that for 12 years, she did the status quo, and she pursued what she thought was the right way to pursue things. And that's why I'm saying that these people in government that want to do good this day and age, they want to pursue right, and they want to do good. And a lot of times all we end up doing is just sticking with the status quo. And the evil has always been there in the background. It's always been there.